Hello, everybody. We are going to read a picture book called The Seven Sneezes. And there is really no lesson here. It's just for fun. But it's a pretty cute book. So we're going to read it. And this is it. And these animals, aren't they cute? I'm not sure what this cord is. Interesting. I really never really study the pictures that much. I'm always focused on the story, but I'm trying to look at these pictures more. They're cute. Okay. There once was a bunny, a kitten, and a dog who lived together in a backyard. The bunny was brown with long fluffy ears. The kitten was black, and like all kittens, it had teeny ears. The dog was a great big dog with a great big bark. Everybody was happy. Everybody was satisfied. The bunny loved his big ears. The kitten was glad that her ears were tiny, and the dog was proud of his great big bark. One day, a ragman came along in an old wagon. "Any rags today? Any rags today?" sang the ragman. It was a chilly day. The ragman started to sneeze. The bunny, the kitten, and the dog all held their breath until the ragman finished his sneeze. They were 3 hearty sneezes, so hearty that the ragman was blown out of sight down the road, wagon and horse and all. "Goodness gracious," the bunny, the kitten, and the dog started to say to each other, and then they saw that something strange had happened. The black kitten had the bunny's long brown ears, and the brown bunny had the kitten's teeny black ears. "Why, how silly you both look," said the dog. But just then he felt silly, because when he opened his mouth, a great big bark came out. Instead, his voice was only a teeny little meow. "Goodness gracious me," exclaimed the cat. She said it in a terrible, great big bark, and she fell over backwards, so surprised she was to hear herself barking. And that is when she saw her teeny ears on the bunny's head where his long ears should be. "Give me back my ears," barked the kitten. "Give me back my ears," squeaked the bunny. And the dog ran around and around, meowing like a cat. The bunny got the hiccups. He was so upset. The sneezes did it, he cried. "Ow, ow," barked the cat. "We'll show the ragman what his sneezes did and make him put everything back the way it was." So they set out to find the ragman. They went along and soon they met a goose. She was quite pink and was carrying all her feathers in a little basket. "Pardon us," said the bunny, the cat, and the dog, "but did you see a ragman go by this way?" "Can't you see that he did?" squawked the goose, stamping her flippered foot. "He sneezed off all my feathers, and I'm going to find him and make him put them back on." So they all went along together. Pretty soon they met a rooster carrying his red comb in his beak, and his tail feathers were growing out of the top of his head, where his comb should have been. "Pardon us," said the bunny, the cat, the dog, and the pink goose, "but did you see—" "Don't say another word," crowed the rooster, dropping his comb. "Awful ragman, sneezing folks into trouble. Just look at my lovely red comb covered with dust. I'm going to make him put it back on again." So they all went along together. Pretty soon they met a little boy wearing only half a jacket and only one shoe, but his other shoe was upside down on the top of his head, like a funny kind of cap. When the little boy saw the animals and heard the cat bark and the dog meow, he laughed so hard that he fell right off the wall. You've been sneezed at too, he cried. Well, don't feel bad. Just look at my nice new jacket, and my shoe has been sneezed on so tight it won't come off my head. I pulled and I pulled. The animals tried to help pull, but the shoe seemed to be sneezed on for good. Let's find that rag man, said the little boy, and make him take it off. So they all went along together. Pretty soon, they met a little girl standing in the road, curling her toes and crying. She held two long braids in her hands, the color of happy candy. They were very pretty pigtails. What a pity they had been sneezed right off of her head. Of course, the little girl came along to look for the rag man. By and by, the friends came to a tumble-down house. Somebody inside was getting ready to sneeze. The friends held their breath and waited for the sneeze to come, and it came. Victoria! The sneeze blew the horse and wagon up into the air. They landed on the roof of the tumble-down house. This is the place, all right, said the little boy. They all ran up and knocked on the door. The ragman came to the door, wiping his eyes. He took a look at the funny-looking friends. Oh, ho, 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 he laughed. What are you laughing at? Barked the cat. You did it with your awful sneezes, added the dog. Laughed the ragman again. He blew his nose. So that's how I sneeze? What will my mother say when I tell her I've lost my pigtails? Wailed the little girl. They're going to laugh at me in school with a shoe on my head, cried the little boy. No one will love me with these little ears, squeaked the bunny. Or me with these big ears, barked the cat. How can I guard the house without my great big bark, meowed the dog. I'll freeze without my feathers, quacked the goose. No barnyard'll have me, fretted the rooster. Now, said the ragman, don't be angry, my dears. I think that when I sneeze, a funny word comes out and some kind of magic happens, but I never know what word it's going to be because I never sneeze the same way twice. Well, what are you going to do about us? Everybody asked. I'll try and sneeze everything right again, said the ragman. So I'll have to keep sneezing until the right word comes out. Just sprinkle some pepper on my nose. It'll help me get started. The little girl found the pepper. Here you go, she said with a shake. The ragman sneezed, just an ordinary everyday sneeze. Shh. Nothing happened. Nothing at all. More pepper, please, said the ragman. I need to feel much sneezier. The little girl took off the lid of the pepper can and she poured a big swish of pepper on the ragman's nose. And the ragman went, Everyone held their breath because they could see that something was going to happen. Something happened, all right, but not what they wanted. The furniture flew out of the window. The house lifted into the air. So did the horse and wagon. And they all came down with a bang in an utterly different place, a much nicer place than before. They all got up and felt themselves, but nobody was hurt a bit. The ragman gasped. The little girl came forward and she threw the whole can of pepper at the ragman. The ragman opened his eyes wide and he opened his mouth wide and 7 big earthquake sneezes came out. The bunny's ears and the kitten's ears flew into the air. And they came down again in their right places. The long brown ears on the bunny and the teeny black ears on the kitten. The dog jumped into the air and barked. The kitten meowed. The feathers flew out of the little basket and stuck onto the goose again. The rooster's comb flew onto his head and his tail feathers stuck where tail feathers should be. The little boy's jacket was sneezed whole and his shoe was sneezed back on his foot. The little girl's pigtails flew back on her head and stuck there. Everything was back the way it was. Dear me, said the ragman, wiping his eyes. That was awfully hard work, but I'm glad everything is fixed again. All of a sudden, he looked sneezy. Run! Cried the ragman. Run, everybody, while I hold my nose. Everybody jumped up and ran out of the yard before the ragman could sneeze again. And they ran all the way home. The end. Now, if you talk to my husband, he will say that I sneeze this way, but I do not, but I might. I mean, it's loud. You can't hold a sneeze in because you explode. I don't know if you knew that. Okay, you guys, have a good night, and don't forget to hit subscribe and like. Okay, you guys, have a good day.